Okay, let's see the practical application we are going to develop now. Let's run this and see the final outcome. So let's run this on a iPhone, right? See in the iPhone, because the red color label is installed only in width regular, height regular, you will not see it on an iPhone. So that's what it's not getting installed in the final deployed app. In the final deployed app to the App Store, you will not see that label because you have installed it only for certain, right? See, and the width is smaller font size, smaller gap. Whereas in the iPad, right, it will have a larger font size, right? And extra labels and different colors and different leading and trailing spaces, right? So this is also adaptivity, guys. So your app is getting adapted according to the environment. So the app is getting adapted according to the trait, right? App is get adapted according to trait variations, right? So this is all coming under adaptive user interfaces, guys. Okay, so let's continue to develop this application now. And bar, right? So if I move forward, so when you add customizations, right? If you continue the first bullet point, introduce the customization using vary for traits option in the device configuration bar, and then you can continue edit them using design canvas. What does that mean? So once you introduce a constraint using the device configuration bar, if you want to change it, let us say now if it's too much, let us say when you run it, let us say it's too much. Say now the design, now it's too much. Say you want to bring it to 100. To bring it back to 100, you might think that you have to again go and click vary for traits and do it, right? You might think, okay, you have to go to let us say the iPad and then click vary for traits and do it, right? The answer is no. That's what this bullet point says, no. So you can introduce the customization using vary for traits in the device configuration bar, and then you can continue to edit them using the design canvas. So once you introduce it, you have to understand that you don't need that option again, vary for traits. You can just come and just click and just go and change from the canvas, right? So that you don't have to always click that blue color vary for traits. I did that, it got applied now. You saw it got reduced, and if I run this now, it will be much better than that. So keep in mind, you introduce constraints, so you introduce customizations, it's less gap now. You introduce customizations using vary for traits, using the device configuration bar vary for traits. But after you introduce, guys, you can just edit them. You can just edit them using the canvas, right? That's the first point. Then second point, when you are varying for traits, you are introducing variations based on size classes, isn't it? Because when you vary for traits, you always select whether it's width regular, height regular, or some other thing, right? But you don't use this workflow for editing them. That's what we said in the first bullet point, right? So you introduce, but you don't use that vary for traits blue color bar for editing. You don't have to vary for traits for edit. Instead, you can edit them directly in the canvas. That is what I did. So this, both the bullet points here are talking the same thing. It's elaborating the same thing, right? It's elaborating the same thing, guys, right? It's elaborating the same thing. Okay, so now you learned that, right? Great. So adding customizations. So other usages of device configuration bar, right? So what are the other usages of device configuration bar? So verifying your changes are applied by looking at devices in the device configuration bar. I.e., you don't have to run and check in the emulator, isn't it? So that's what we did, right? So now you can see, because it's giving the device configuration bar, when you click a device, it's giving pixel perfect rendering, so that you don't have to run it. Now you can see the gap. So if you again use the device configuration bar, and if you go for iPhone, you can see in the iPhone it's a smaller gap. So that is another benefit of this device configuration bar, that you don't have to run the emulator. You can see the changes in the design canvas, which gives a pixel perfect rendering, right? Okay. Okay, then before we come into this, right? So let's look in, give me a sec. Let's look into this, right? The device. So auto layout guide, right? So in the auto layout guide, right? So it's coming under advanced auto layout, right? Advanced auto layout, size class specific layout. So if I click on it, the size class specific layout, right? So installing or unstalling view control constraints, right? So let's see what it is. And it says final and base size classes, right? But before I come into that, I want to show you another thing, right? I will come into this, but let's do one more thing, right? Now let us say your designer has once again asked you to put an extra label into the iPad, because why I'm always taking the iPad, because that has more size. So your designer might ask you to do some changes to the iPad compared to the iPhone. So once again, if the designer has asked to put an extra label for the iPad, what I will do is I will go for the iPad, right? Awesome, I'll go for the iPad. And once again, right, now if I want to add a label, let us say a label for the iPad, right? Extra label for the iPad, right? So in that case, let us say so the label I'm adding should get added only to the iPad, right? Say that it should get added only to the iPad, right? And let us say, because the iPad, yeah, let's do, and let's look at the iPhone as well quickly. Let's look at the iPhone. So if I go to the iPhone, yeah, so let's say there's an extra label the designer wants you to add to the iPad, right? So what you do is you go into let us say one of the iPads, just to make sure you go into any of the width regular, height regular. It doesn't matter whether it's iPad 9.7 or whether it's the 10.2 inch or whether it's 10, doesn't matter whatever it is, because whatever it is you select, what matters is the combination of the size class. It's not whether the iPad 10.2 or the 9.7 or iPad 12. No, it's not that. It is the combination of size class, which is width regular and height regular. So it doesn't matter where you are, right? So you just go into one of the width regular, height regular, because your designer has asked you to add it to iPads. Then, like as earlier, you click vary for traits, right? So you click vary for traits, and then you want to apply it for width regular and height regular, right? And now any change you are doing will apply only for that. So for example, now if I go and add from the library, if I add a label, right? Let us say I'm adding a label from the library. Let's say I'm adding it. Let's say I'm adding the label here, right? Between, in the middle. And let us say if the designer has asked you to give some text, let us say the main source. The main, let's put something, let me put something here. So let us say your designer has asked you to put a text called the main screen to edit employee details, some text, right? So you put that. And let us say the designer has asked you to make it bold, right? And maybe a slightly larger font size, right? And let us say your designer has asked you to center it, right? Let us say your designer has asked you to center. So look at this. Now everything you are doing, this bar is blue. That means it's applying only for whatever you selected. What you selected is width regular and height regular. So if you are going to center this, you can do that as well, right? And say center horizontally, right? So all what you want, you put that. Let us say you put a color as well, right? Just you know, say you put a color as well, right? And once you are happy with all that, right, just see if the constraints are there now. Okay, and then let's look at this. Let's also constrain this to this top label, right? The gap, right? So constrain it to this and say the vertical spacing, right? So I constrain that. So then once I do everything, right, when I click done varying, the beauty of this is, guys, it will do this only for width regular and height regular collection, right? That means for that trait collection, right? So if you go and check your iPhone, you will not see this change. So if I go for the iPhone, guys, it's not there. It will not be there. Why? Because you did a vary for traits, meaning you did a customization, right? So if you run this on your iPhone, you will not see that change, right? So this is once again I'm repeatedly telling, right? So this lesson is advanced auto layout, and we call it as customization. So it's not coming on your iPhone, but guys, if you run this on your iPad, right, you will see that customization being applied, because iPad is coming under the size class combination with regular and height regular, right? Okay guys, right? So it looks very clear for you that what important changes or what important customizations, you call it as customizations, you could do. Now the beauty of this is also, you can see when you go to the design canvas, you don't see it on your iPhones because it's with constraint and height regular. You will see it only on any device with regular height regular. Now I did the change for iPad 10.2 inch, but if I go for iPad 9.7 also I will see that, because the iPad 9.7 is also with regular height regular. If I go for an iPad 12.9 inch, right, you will see that in the iPad 12.9 inch also, because that is also coming under that configuration family, that combination of size classes called with regular and height. So it doesn't matter what iPad I am, I will always see that, because that is what you do when you apply configurations. So the concept is, guys, you are not doing it device wise. You are not doing it for a iPad 9.7 inch, or you are not doing it for a, say, iPad 12.9. No, no, no. What you do is for a combination of size classes, because iPad 9.7 inch and iPad 12.9, both of them comes under one size class combination called, what's it, guys? What's it? It's width regular and height regular. So anything your designer asks you to do, right, anything your design is asking you to do, right, that's what we said here. Anything your design is asking you to do, you should be able to, give me a sec, I will show it to you. See, anything your designer, see, designers will give you different layouts. As a developer, you should be able to translate, map them into the size classes, into the, so the device request, you should map it to size classes, right, not to devices. As a developer, right, that is your role, right, that is your role, right. And then, so once again, I will show you something very important. Now, when you click on this label, say employee window, and if you look at the employee window, which is seen in both the iPad and the iPhone, right? Employee window is seen in both iPad and iPhone. So if you click on this, if you go in the attribute inspector, if you go down, see, look at my mouse down, it says installed, right? Look at my mouse, it says installed. But if you look at the label, this one, if you go down, it says it's installed only on with regular and height regular, right? So this is the beauty of Xcode. It gives you a lot of information and a lot of flexibility as a developer for you to do customizations. And remember, the customizations comes under advanced auto layout, and advanced auto layout just comes under the common umbrella of auto layout, and the common umbrella of auto layout comes under adaptive user interface, or developing adaptive user interface. In other words, developing universal application. So the whole lesson is about adaptive user interfaces, and today's lesson is about advanced auto layout, meaning customizations, right? And in other words, varying for trades, right? So now you can see this label is installed only for width regular and height regular. If you look at a button, this button is installed for all the, so if you don't see a specific size class combination, that means it applies for all the devices. That is what I told you. Now if you look, for example, if you look a constraint, let us say if I click on this what do you call this label, and if I click on the top constraint, it's 50, right? There's no way size class indication here. So that you do with the simple, that second option. So straightforward, that is the first option, meaning simple auto layout. So see, that's what I said here. In simple auto layout, you create constraints to apply them universally to all the devices. So that means this simple constraint we created in previous lessons, this one, right? This simple constraint we created, that applies universally to all the devices, right? That is what it says here. Simple auto layout, when you create a constraint, that applies that constraint universally to all the devices, right? The constraint will apply to all the devices. But in advanced auto layout, what you can do is you can create constraints to apply into certain devices, right? That you call as customization. So that is what you do in customize advanced auto layout. What you do is customizations, and you can see it by when look in the design canvas. When you look at any constraint, if there's no variation, if there's no size class, that means that constraint applies universally to all the devices in the same manner. But some constraints, for example, like this, if the see into the stack view, this the let me click on the stack view. If I click on this constraint, some constraints, the trailing constraint, see there's a variation, right? This is what you call as vary for traits, right? What is a trait? A trait is an environmental situation. A trait is an environmental condition, right? What is a trait change? Trait change means environment changes. That means, so the constant is 30, but if the environment changes into width regular and height regular, that's a trait change, right? That's a trait change. If the trait changes, or the trait is the environment, if the environment changes, then the auto layout system will automatically apply this constraint into that trait environment, right? Into that environment, into that trait system, into that trait collection, right? So this is why even this option is known as, look here down, it's known as vary for traits. So vary for trait means, once again, what's a trait? Trait is an environmental condition or situation. A trait change is your app changes on the environment of the app changes. Example, one person might run the app on an iPhone, another person might run it on an iPad. That's a trait change. That's an environmental change. So that's, in other words, that's a vary for trait, variation of a trait, right? So then it triggers this, whatever the customization you have done, and applies that only for that trait collection, right, into that particular environment, right? So hope it's very clear to you. So as a developer, when you look at certain constraints, you can see whether it's a universal constraint or whether it's a customized constraint, right? Awesome, guys, awesome, right? So you all are learning a lot, friends, from this channel, and it's something, it's really great news for you, for knowing that you are progressing well, right? Let's